Friends of Formula One, Ferrari's Duo 2 is in full preparation mode for the Grand Prix at Monza in early September. And according to exclusive paddock whispers, we're talking about an absolutely insane technical leap. Around 20 extra horsepower that could be worth 2 to 3 tenths per lap. Practically the performance boost needed to close the gap with Mercedes. Taking Mercedes' current performance as a reference point, those extra 2 or 3 tenths would cover exactly the gap that still separates the two teams over a single flying lap, finally allowing Ferrari to fight on equal terms in the second half of the season. Now, you can treat Mercedes as a fixed benchmark sitting exactly 2 or 3 tenths ahead of Ferrari at every race, because everything depends on the circuit, ambient temperatures, and a whole range of other variables. But the message is crystal clear. Duo 2 is going to help Ferrari enormously in the second half of the season, and Maranello is waiting for it with serious anticipation. Monza was chosen as the debut circuit because it's the track where aerodynamic efficiency matters most and performance values tend to compress, allowing Ferrari to maximize the benefit of the engine upgrade. And there's a second major technical move that's even more imminent. A significant aerodynamic package is arriving for the Zandvoort weekend in the Netherlands, the very first race after the summer break. It's going to be a complete package, targeting virtually every area of the SF26, with new specifications on the front wing, floor, diffuser, and side pods. Now, pay close attention here because Zandvoort is a circuit that is dangerously similar to the Hungaroring in terms of medium speed characteristics. It has practically just one straight, the main one, with low and medium speed corners, heavy traction demands, warm temperatures, and a strongly rear-limited nature. Ferrari will need to use the disastrous Hungarian Grand Prix as a reference point and make absolutely sure they don't repeat the same setup and execution mistakes. Even Hamilton, speaking after the race, candidly admitted that with the careless errors being made right now, you lose championships. And that is not a throwaway line because the Brit is the most decorated driver in Formula One history. Following that disastrous Hungarian Grand Prix, Fred Vasseur gathered all the Ferrari sporting management staff at Maranello for a general meeting. Designed to take stock of the season and fully refocus efforts ahead of the second half of the World Championship, the Hungaroring weekend inevitably left a real sense of disappointment because the SF26 had shown a level of potential that was only partially realized across qualifying in the race. But beyond the mistakes, the car simply wasn't good enough to win. And to make matters worse, some problems that had already appeared during pre-season testing resurfaced in a surprising way, and those will need to be properly analyzed. At the center of the meeting was the topic of simulator-to-track correlation, that recurring but deeply damaging issue that prevents Ferrari from accurately understanding their true strengths and weaknesses from race to race. According to what is filtering through, Vasseur accompanied the meeting with a very meaningful gesture toward all sporting management employees. Every single person will receive a token of recognition for the work done during an extremely long and particularly intense first half of the season. It's a detail that shows just how well the French team principal understands the weight of the effort everyone has put in across these first 11 Grand Prix weekends. 2 race victories have come in, a recovery to second place in the Constructors' Championship after a difficult 2025, and a string of podiums that have brought real enthusiasm back around the team. But above all, there has been a process of consistent growth, driven by updates brought to almost every single race of the season. A philosophy of continuous development that has simply proven to be the right call. Fred Vasseur, speaking to media including F1 and General.com, admitted that Ferrari knows it needs to improve on the engine side, and will do so, even though engine development is far more difficult than chassis development. The most important thing, however, will be maintaining the pace of development overall. Vasseur highlighted how the update strategy differs between teams. McLaren made an enormous step forward, but they don't follow exactly the same philosophy as Ferrari because they bring large, isolated packages. Their first major package arrived in Miami, while Ferrari takes a different approach and tries to bring components to almost every single race. That momentum needs to be maintained because there are still 12 races to go and the season is still very long. According to Vasseur, there are significant margins of improvement on the chassis side and across the board. He also gave a very clear-eyed assessment of the first part of the championship. In Hungary, Ferrari got the execution wrong. If they had started well and nothing had gone sideways into the first corner, the entire race would have taken a completely different shape. But Vasseur was quick to point out that good execution has actually been Ferrari's main strength during this first half of the season. The clearest picture is that the opening stretch of the championship probably split into two very distinct phases. The first phase ran through to Spain, when Mercedes was flying and picked up roughly 100 more points than Ferrari across 4 or 5 races. Then, after Spain, Ferrari came back strong and scored more points than Mercedes over the following 4 or 5 races. A figure that shows the real Ferrari attack only truly got going from mid-season onward, and there is still a huge amount of work to do. The challenge of the second half of the season is absolutely clear. There are still 50 very heavy points to recover from championship leader Kimi Antonelli, and to get there, 2 specific things need to happen. First, A2 must work perfectly and integrate beautifully with the SF26 through aerodynamic mapping, aerodynamic updates, flow deflectors, and likely a new specific wing for Monza. These are still very new cars, totally uncharted territory, and we are in a phase where small updates can deliver massive advantages. Second, Ferrari must completely stop making mistakes. Because with Antonelli, this sharp and increasingly precise, closing a 50-point gap becomes an absolutely monumental task. Watch out also for the Mercedes counterattack, which will likely be built around a new aerodynamic setup arriving at Zandvoort or Monza, and around the very significant possibility of team orders, something Ferrari will need to seriously consider if they are genuinely targeting the driver's title. Look, Ferrari is working incredibly hard during these summer break days. Vasseur has gathered the entire sporting department to analyze the correlation problems that emerged in Hungary. He thanked all the employees with a token of appreciation for the work done, and he's preparing the A2 for Monza with about 20 extra horsepower that are worth 2 or 3 tenths per lap and could close the gap with Mercedes. The complete aerodynamic package for Zandvoort on a track very similar to Hungary must avoid repeating the same mistakes. Vasseur admitted he got the execution wrong, but points to ample margins for improvement on the chassis and everywhere else. The season has split into 2 phases. First, Mercedes was flying with over 100 points more in 5 races. Then Ferrari scored more points than Mercedes. Now there are 50 points to recover and 12 races remaining. We need perfect updates and 0 mistakes.